Let's go from this to
this. A fully working, battery-powered, solar-powered inverter running nothing but my barn right now. But it's running my barn. Full battery, full solar. Stay tuned if you want to see how I did it. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. My name's Keith, and I'm going to show you in this video today how I mounted my battery conduit box in my 6000XP. I have it all wired into my solar grid out in front of my house. It's solely powering my barn right now. I'm going to be doing this testing for probably about a week. This video is just going to be about me getting this mounted up and wired up and getting it initialized and started and getting power from it. So let's get into it.
If you're wondering, it's still really cold in Wisconsin. These ropes were installed at the factory. These were just there to help get the battery out of the crate. They come off. Bracket's already attached to the back, so we will get that off next. Get this off of here. There it is. Oh yeah, she's heavy. All right, so top of the bracket gets mounted a minimum of 29.5 inches from the ground. I added this 3/4 inch piece of plywood to the ground because my truck is usually parked pretty close here. So I don't want any of the salt water or anything touching it, because it will get moved eventually into the house where it's warm, but for now, testing purposes, we're having it in the garage. I also mounted this piece of drywall to the wall because they want you to mount it to a non-combustible surface. I'm gonna get this measured out. 30 inches up, 6 mounting holes. 2 of them are going to line up with the studs. The other one is going to go into this plywood behind the drywall, so it's plenty. It's pretty much going to be self-supported with the feet that are on the bottom anyway, so it'll be, this is just to keep it from tipping over. Here is the level. Well, I'll be darned. That's good enough for me. Alrighty, get this bad boy on the wall. I'm actually gonna have to switch to the other side. Alright, here we go. Okay. That works. This is a what I did, not how to channel. Just remember that. Okay, before I put these feet on here, or get these feet screwed on, I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws in the back of it to attach the bracket to the battery. These 4 little screws I took out in the beginning. Okay, now that that's done, now I'm going to go ahead and put my board, extra board, underneath the feet of the battery and get them adjusted down tight so they take most of the weight off that wall bracket. Hopefully that's far enough that I can reach. Oh yeah. Pretty painless. All right, got those all tightened down. I mean, everything is solid, man. This thing is not going anywhere now. My last video, I showed you the unboxing. On the conduit box, I wasn't sure where the other 4 screws worked. There was 4 holes on the bottom of that box where it mounts the top of this battery. They're on the battery. So I'm gonna remove them screws, and then I'm gonna go get my conduit box and get that mounted on here. All right, here's Mr. Conduit box. Gonna pull the cover off the front. Set this off to the side. All right, we are going to get these knockouts out of here. I'm just going to do one of these smaller ones for now because I got my conduit ran wires. These are going onto the solar panels. I get one of these knocked out. We're going to get the XP, and then we'll start getting stuff hooked up. Well, I might have to do this a little different. I'm going to take the top off. I might have to take the side panel off too because you just saw me beating on it and it wasn't coming out. Set those little guys there. Go figure out which ones I need. This large square knockout here is actually for the 6000 XP. All right, so here I have the 6000 XP opened up, and I'm just going to show you how easy it is to pop these covers out. They're just little detents on there. Just flip them around until they break off. That's it. I got to take one off for the battery, the load, and then the solar input. I'm not using a generator right now or the grid power, so those are the only three I need on there currently. Oh, and comms to the battery. And now I'm putting these bushings inside those knockout holes. Okay, so these are all the sizes that came with the conduit box, and only one of them fits. This one is too small for these, too big for this. I don't know, that's kind of interesting. They must be for the other bigger inverters that go with that conduit box, so. All right, I got my knockout here. I also got my other knockout for my PV wires, solar wires coming in. I will just put a bushing in there for now. This is just for testing purposes. Again, this is a how I did it, not how to do it. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do right away, before I forget, is the ground. In here, very important, ground screw. This just grounds the conduit box framework to the battery framework. This is not a negative cable. These are here. This is just a chassis ground, they call it, or an earth ground. This just is bonding the two metal frames together just for safety reasons. So very important. Do not forget this step before you move on. Okay, here we are on the side. Here's the plastic bushing I got for the came with the conduit box. I'll put it on there so I can run my wires inside there. Here we go with the XP. Knockouts line up really nice. Make sure it's centered. Beautiful. All right. Okay, that is up. I'm gonna push my wires in here. I am gonna leave quite a loop in here, but I'm gonna wait till after I get the bigger battery cables hooked up because it'll just make it easier. Let's get some cables. First, probably the easiest one, communication cable. This is for the inverter to talk to the battery. They just work much more efficiently when they're tied together. Now you can just run this off a generic battery. You do not need to have communication with the battery. But like I said, it just makes it everything work that much more efficiently together. There is a specific battery COM port. It's labeled very well. All on the left-hand side, a close-up. Battery COM right there. Battery communication goes in this port, not in this. When you buy the indoor wall mount battery, it comes with battery cables. Special connector just for them, but they do not come with the crimped on ends. So if you're going to run this with the 6000 XP, that has studs, and you need to put on a crimp on connector on the end to attach the battery
to the 6000 XP. I'm gonna get these crimped on, and then I'm gonna get the battery hooked up. I got the ends crimped on. I got them taped up just to keep as much of it closed up as I can, because I don't like to have them sitting out. So go ahead and run these up through here. Okay, up the nuts here. Now when hooking these up, it's very important to make sure this battery breaker is off, the BMS is off, this breaker is off, this controller is off. Everything is not powered up at all, so I want to make sure none of that is on, because you don't want to risk any shocks or damaging anything for that matter. I'll show you this here. This sits here. Here's the click. Sure it's on there. All right, battery's hooked up. So now what I'm going to do is hook up the solar array. The disconnect for the solar is off right now. The whole system is still down, so we're not going to have any chances of shorting out anything. So ground wire is going to go to the PE, which is your grounding bar. My white wire is going to be my negative. A little tug test. Okay. Next thing I got to do is get the barn wire feed from my breaker panel pulled out and into this panel. So we're going to do that next. All right, I'm just getting the final touches here. Again, this is just temporary testing. This is not a permanent install by any means. So what I got going on is I have solar is powered in, tied in. I did check voltage. Right now I have about 170 volts coming in on the terminals. Next thing I'm going to do is get this last neutral hooked up to the neutral bar in here, and then I will be ready to power up stuff and start commissioning. Oh yeah, plenty of room. Nice snug fit. So right now what I'm going to do is power up the battery. And once that gets powered up, then I will turn on the breaker. Now default, this already comes set up with the CAN bus communication as EG4. It is a master. RS45 is already set up for communicating with the EG4 inverter. So everything is set up already there on the battery side. Turn on the breaker here. Well, the breaker is off up there for the battery, so it's just going to turn on the output to these. Just going to double check my voltage at the battery. Make sure we have that. I'm going to go to DC and see what we got. We have 52.4 volts right now. So if I turn this on and then turn on the power, see what happens. There we go. So it powered up. Let me bring in for a closer look. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to flip on the solar input now as well. Just give it a second here. And there we just saw the PV input go up to 169 volts. Okay, everything is turned on. We have power coming in from the solar panels, and we also have the battery starting to get charged up. It took a little bit. You have to go through the settings. By doing that, you press and hold the enter button for 3 seconds and you let off. I'll put them on the screen what you should change. I did change was the battery brand. That's setting number 3. I had to change that from 6 to a 0, which is EG4. The other thing I did too for temporary testing is I disabled the RSD, which is the remote service disconnect. That's kind of like an e-stop type thing. Since this is all kind of just in testing phase right now, I just disabled that for now.
It is set up as a single inverter, not paralleled. If I scroll through here, it'll probably tell me my battery is at 55% right now. It is charging at 1.58 kilowatts. 1,730 watts coming in. That's pretty impressive. Let me do the math. I have 4 panels right now. 4 panels at 440 watts each. So my max, technically without the bifacial, is 1760. I'm pulling in 1720 right now watts. That's awesome because those panels out there are 550 watt bifacial. I'm basically pulling almost as much as I can off the single side of that. Here's the sun. Here's my 4 panels. Right now they're pulling almost their max. Well, their max for one side. They're pulling like 1730 watts. Yeah, so far these are really pulling some power. Beautiful, bright, sunny day. It really makes a big difference, so sweet. That's actually really cool. I'm not going to put any sort of AC load on this quite yet because I want to let this battery charge up. The battery heater's going because it does need to warm up a little bit. It's 21 degrees right now, so technically they can discharge down to -4. Charging, they have to be at 32 degrees, so actually they must have already turned on because it is allowing it. Once I did power everything up, it did take a little while before it actually allowed the batteries to start charging, so the battery's been on for probably, I'd say a good half hour to an hour while I was going through the instruction manual, getting everything figured out for the settings on this. Next step is to tie it into the breaker over here for the barn. And then once I get that hooked up, I'm going to turn on the AC output. This switch over here on this side is for the AC output. I'm going to get the covers put back on. We're going to get that hooked up and then we'll fire up the AC output and see what we get. Okay, I'm back. Now I got the cover put on the bottom of the inverter. I have the barn wires coming out of here. They are tied into the wires that go from the breaker panel out to the barn. And I will be powering up the AC output. It's currently on. And let's turn this on. Okay, started to draw some power. 140 watts. Okay, just ran out to the barn and I checked to make sure I had good power out there. I do have power out there in the outlets. Lights work. Right now it's only pulling about 20 watts and that's probably just the cameras that are running and the little Wi-Fi booster I got out there. So what I'm going to do now is I have my water heaters are on outlets that are controlled via Wi-Fi. So I'm going to turn on those 4 barn waters now. Let's see what we get. There, it just jumped. We're at 440 watts. So right now it's pulling 440 watts, but it's still able to charge the battery with another 750 watts. With the amount of solar coming in, it's using the solar power first to power the output, and then whatever extra solar it has is using to charge the battery, which is great. So this should do pretty darn good, actually. I have all 6 of the waters are on right now. I have 3 cameras running out there. And now with all those on, I'm gonna go run out there and flip on all the lights I got and see how much power it draws. I'll be right back. Okay, so I just got back and turned on all the lights in the barn. Right now, it is showing we're pulling 680 watts. So we're gonna do some testing over the next week or so. Put all my water heaters back on their morning and night schedule where I only run them for about 4 hours in the morning and 4 or 5 hours at night. Yeah, I feel like this is gonna work pretty good. Those solar panels are doing great. I got room for another 4 more out in front of the house. So at some point here in the next couple of weeks, I may end up doing that. Like I said, we're gonna do some testing this week and see how it turns out. And hopefully I'll have another video for you here soon. I'll go over how everything's been working, what changes I'm gonna make. If you do have any questions on this, drop them in the comments below. If you want to take a look at these products, they're all available through links down below. I have affiliate links down there through Signature Solar. I appreciate if you use it. That does help support the channel a little bit. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.